man, it's cold all over the place, and it's unfortunately for us, this cold system is sweeping north. So at least we're not the kind folks in Maryland who got stuck in their cars for the 18 hours overnight.
12, yeah.
That would have been
winter's
awesome.
coming.
Yeah. So yes, we are today the Kings of the North still. So thank you so much for joining us on the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. Today we're going to do our second review of Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine. I'm your host, Dupe.
That what it's called?
Johnny. Andre can educate you in the fact that Tatooine once a water planet, but you probably don't know this at all either. It dried up. So anyways, I'm your host, Dupe. With me is clearly one of the undereducated folks of the Star Wars universe, John Ho, and clearly who is someone very educated and looks very warm, wearing a pelt of
Ewok.
Not Ewok.
He's butchered a bunch of Ewoks to make
he went to
himself
Kashyyyk
nice and warm.
and he got a pelt nonetheless. Maybe it was the pelt that from episode 1. Didn't he get didn't Boba Fett get a pelt?
Offering
from the Snake Man. Anyways, Andre, say hello.
Hello, I'm wearing and representing my boy Chewie.
And Mr. Rob Gadet, who is wearing black to represent BK. So there we go.
Yeah, I can't follow that up. So, good on you.
All right. So thank you all for joining us. We are going to talk about Star Wars, but like I said before, we're going to do like always, quick thoughts on it, general feels, and then we're going full spoilers because this episode had a lot of going along, a lot of stuff, a lot of art, a lot of symmetry, a lot of things. Maybe you like art house, maybe you didn't, but we're gonna go through it. So Rob,
oh boy,
give us your thoughts of this episode.
I don't know, like I'm watching, there are so many things on TV to watch, right? And so I'm watching this out of like I like Star Wars. I'm not a massive Star Wars head like you or Andre. I like Star Wars. I enjoy it. I quite, so I'm watching it. This was it's a weird episode because there are parts where I'm like, cool. And then there's other parts where I'm like, what the hell's happening? And why is this, like, who cares? And like, so I'm all sorts of like confounded and confused as to why, to be very honest with you, why we actually have this series.
It's a perfect point to be at. I love it. John, what are your thoughts?
It started off like a really cool episode, and then they pulled the rug out from under you kind of technique. We've seen it in often these. And Andre decided to pick it up and put it on.
This was a classic.
They sometimes do it in these shows. They go
this
back
is classic
and forth
Arrow technique, season 1, where it's like now we're on the island.
Yeah. So they're extending the series in some way by playing with the time, which is okay. It actually did turn out to be a interesting portion that they jumped to. And then they like Rob said, they lose me in a couple parts. I'm just like, why? Like, why is this happening? But yeah, overall, it was okay. I didn't want to like shut it off in the middle. Well, actually, maybe I did, but I didn't want to fully shut it off. So I don't know.
Andre?
Yeah, this episode is I'm call it way to go Favreau. Like way to go. You suck.
Oh my god, I gotta tell you, Andre, I actually thought you were gonna like this episode.
No, this episode was, all kinds of terrible. Put it this way, I'm out. Like I'm done. They're not. I'm not watching the third episode.
Andre on this.
Yep, that's it.
Interesting. I'm curious.
We didn't think you would be on board for it.
I am so curious about ratings. Okay, we're jump. Rob, what do you give this out of 10?
Oh, right down the middle of 5.
John?
I was gonna I think the last one I gave 6. I was gonna tick this up a little bit, but my girl doesn't appear in it that much, so I'm gonna leave it at 6.
Andre?
Wait. Sorry, you said you were gonna tick it up a little bit.
I thought you gave last
No,
week
no.
an 8.
No, I definitely gave it like a 6.
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, I gave it a 6 because of Ming Na.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Andre?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10, not 5.
No.
3 out of 10.
No, it's good. Okay, so
Wait, what about you, Stu?
I loved this episode. I really liked it.
Jesus.
But we're going to thoughts. But I am a huge stan of world
Dancing.
building. I loved for my favorite Star Trek show is DS9 because they added, Ronald D. Moore added real gravitas to the Klingons, the Ferengi, just added world building. And I really liked the fact that in most Star Wars outside of this, and Andre has the books, but if you're watching the movies and TV shows, you just look at, the Tusken Raiders as just like people just shooting and stuff. But this added a level of complexity to the culture. I appreciated kind of a lot of the symmetry, and it addressed the problems we talked about last week where the actor's not the main actor's not a great actor, so a lot of it's quiet and silenced, and it matches a lot of things that make sense. He doesn't talk as much. He's dealing with some of the natives of the planet. So I thought that it was really cool, and it combined so many Easter eggs from like 1977 characters from the extended universe, BK, like there's a lot of things, and 3 separate underground like assassins guilds and societies. So I thought it was like a nice thing, and they're doing what they can with an actor who's not great. So I appreciated that portion of it, but we'll go into further detail because clearly I really like this episode and no one's on board. So I look forward.
They should give him. I hear what you're saying, Stu. I think they should. They kind of like leave him hanging out there. Like they could have let him put on a mask or goggles, but they just let him standing out there like this. And you're like, come on,
it's
give this
really
guy something.
Hard. I don't know how to it's really weird. Like I don't know how to describe it because again, the show is you're kind of hangstrung with an actor. It's kind of like Hayden Christensen. We're stuck with him, and now he's going to come back again, and we're like, no matter how much we want to just give that a pass, he's gonna be Anakin, and he's gonna start speaking, and then we're all gonna be like, okay, let's just get through these Anakin scenes. Let's get through this. And it's not his fault. He was cast in a role, and he's just gonna do it. So, and who doesn't want money? If Andre was cast as Mace Windu, guess what? We're gonna Mace Windu over and over, and we'll clap our hands. We're like, great, thanks, man. Like this is Star Wars. So they're kind of hangstrung by casting. So we're just gonna smile and nod. Sometimes they get it right.
Now we're not hating him, but I've
Ewan
never
McGregor,
really
the best.
watched the third ones.
Sometimes you get a bad actor, and you're like, oh, okay. George Lucas wasn't.
Yeah, but I don't think.
Based on.
But I don't think Hayden Christensen is a bad actor per se. Like he did that movie Shattered Glass, which I thought he was tremendous in. As a journalist, I don't think that Tamara Morrison.
Italy? That was rough.
No, I don't think Tamara Morrison is a bad.
John,
is a
did
bad
you
actor.
watch Little Italy, by the way? Sorry to interrupt. You've not seen the romantic comedy Little Italy with him and Emma Roberts?
That's one that was filmed in Toronto.
Yeah.
In Little Italy.
He's like,
I had to look up the plot. I probably have seen it, to be honest.
Oh, non-surprise. Woman meets a Italian guy, falls in love, Little Italy, downtown Toronto, things like that nature. This is surprise. Anyway, sorry, Rob, go for it.
Yeah, Tamara Morrison he's not a bad actor either. We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
I just think that he's not right for this specific role. And I will probably then segue a little bit into what Andre would likely say and what he kind of touched on in the beginning is that he's doing the work of Jon Favreau's words. Mm-hmm. And so is it the fault of the actor or is it a fault of the part and the words that he's being given or the scene that he has to work in?
It's kind of like a thing where if he was British, he can get away with a lot of gobbledygook. Like you can just say weird things, and when you have a British accent, people just let it slide.
Accent chews it up.
The accent just chews it up. Like when you're British and you're just saying stuff.
Yeah, but he's New Zealand. I know, but
it's not the same. it's like it's mostly times on these TV shows and stuff they give the British person the dialogue, and it kind of works out that way. And you can give them weird exposition, doesn't really make sense, but it sounds right. So you just kind of get a pass. Like that's why all the Imperials, like when they're all British, they worked really well because they could make George Lucas and his dialogue's not the greatest dialogue, but some of it works really well when Grand Moff Tarkin or when Sir Alec McGuinness says it, because they're trained actors of that ilk of stage, and you can get away with it. And Ewan McGregor sounds really cool no matter what he says, how bad Mandalorians and stuff like all that counts as.
You were supposed to be the chosen one.
Yeah, like you have great actors, just like Taken's
Liam Neeson
doing Qui-Gon. Like anytime you have a good actor doing it, it just sounds more it's passable. But okay, let's go into full spoilers, because clearly you guys need to unleash some rounds of questions. So for those who haven't seen it, go watch it. Join us back when we have this conversation. So we're going full spoilers. So Rob, tell us your gripes. Tell us your them apples, because clearly there's stuff.
Well, let's focus on a little bit on the positive. First of all, it looks gorgeous, right? Like this show is shot beautifully. We know that the technology they're using is what they've adopted from The Mandalorian, and what they've actually are using or have used for the upcoming Thor movie, where they have those OLED monitors all around them, and they create the backgrounds and whatnot, right? So makes it a lot easier than having green screen everywhere. So it pops. Like, it looks super high res. It looks gorgeous. And a lot of it is practical effects. I think we also have to give a big shout out to that. It completely, you almost kind of forget about that prequel trilogy and how everything was computer effects. The practical effects, I think, do this show a lot of justice and service. But when I'm watching it, I keep thinking, like, I don't know, I kind of preferred The Mandalorian and its Western motif a lot more than I'm preferring this. And I feel like this is trying to be a Western. This is a guy walking into the saloon to say, hey, what's going on here? I'm strutting my stuff. And people are like, you're not really that important because other people here. And now you've got the Hutt twins, Jabba the Hutt's twin nephew and niece, or cousin, sorry, are hanging out there and trying to lay claim to the throne. And when Boba Fett is saying, no, this is my throne, I own this place, it is not, I don't feel like convinced. Like, I feel like he's like posing. Like, it just doesn't feel, he poses no threat, in so much so that even the people in the show are like, you're just a bounty hunter. Like, he goes and visits that mayor, and the mayor's like, you're just a bounty hunter. He goes, I'm not a bounty hunter. I'm like, well, yeah, you were, like, just like 25 seconds ago before you got tossed in the Sarlacc pit. Like, what are you talking about? That's what your role was. That's what your job was, right? So I don't know. It feels off. Like, it doesn't feel like Boba Fett. It feels weird. It feels like it feels like like the 80s animated droids cartoon. Like, it just like, oh, it's kind of tied into it, but it's not really part of it. Like, it just feels off to me. I will say the train scene was phenomenal, right? So when you see that freighter train going across the desert, and they're taking out some of the sand people, and first of all, I guess he goes to the he says, hey, give me some time, I'm going to be back in the morning and we'll stop that train, right? And and he takes off and he goes and gets those speed bikes. He takes down the group of the guys who look like they came from the Invincible cartoon, and
that bar was the legitimate, like, carbon copy of the bar that Luke met Biggs in,
right?
In like the deleted scene in Star Wars 19, like the original Star Wars.
Yeah, and then I know that those two characters were supposed to be from the original that were cut.
Those are two of the original characters from George Lucas. So it was really interesting to see that. Again, we can always say that.
But realistically, sorry to cut you, who cares if you don't know it?
No,
right?
It's there.
That's fluff.
That's fancy.
When nothing else matters. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's inconsequential. So it doesn't matter how much Easter eggs you put in if the rest of the thing is garbage. right? Like I don't get it. Like it.
Well,
like,
we'll get to you in a second, so don't
Yeah,
worry
just
about it.
saying,
We'll get to you. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
So
That's
kind of
we
their
get it.
formula, though.
We get
Marvel's
it. We get
formula.
it. But
Throw something
but,
in.
But to your point, Andre, when you got to the first episode before, you knew this of Jon Favreau, that he latches on to weird Easter eggs that he cares about, and the story is not always up to par. So this is consistent with what happened in season 1 of like The Mandalorian, or even that weird ice cream box where he kept the thing. Like, again, it was a snapshot of something that happened in Cloud City, but like, does it really matter to your point? No, it doesn't. But like, that's what he gravitates to, and he has a show and he does it. But
I guess so. But he could have spent time, writing a proper script or something.
No, Andre, that takes more effort, Andre.
I guess so.
Flip through a book,
like,
and land on a random page.
Yeah,
and go, let me include this.
Honestly, like, he kind of does. And sorry, Rob, for he does a lot of what Zack Snyder does. He looks at comic sequences and just like, I'm gonna copy this. And what does Jon Favreau do? He goes through that art books that you guys sell at Heroes World with the Robert McQuarrie like books, and he's like, oh, that I'm gonna throw in here. I'm gonna throw in these ice monsters in The Mandalorian. I've seen this scene in this. I'm gonna make it in the TV show, and that's what it is. It's not necessarily makes sense, but he's like, I saw it in an art book once that Lucas Arts produced. I'm gonna throw this in the movie, and some people love it, and some people like me are like, oh, that's cool, and some people, and you're right, like, it doesn't really matter. But it's cool that they're pulling from the source material. So that's all I'm saying. Like, again, doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing, but it is what it is. But Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, so the bar scene was cool. But for me, I guess the train scene was pretty awesome. Although I have to say, it really reminded me of the episode in The Mandalorian when they're on the truck, the convoy. As they're racing towards, I think it was like the episode 8 or whatever. It was one of those last episodes. We're on the top of the truck convoy and they're going towards the base. It was very reminiscent of that. So I was like, oh, okay,
it's more reminiscence of Lawrence of Arabia.
Well, I don't know, maybe. So
what was the last time you watched Lawrence of Arabia? Fun fact.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
So it was okay. And then he's accepted by the Sand People. I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought he was gonna like bed one of them. I was like, there's something weird kind of chemistry happening here. Yeah, I was like, what is that? What does that O face look like? And then at the end, it ends with the rhythmic tribal dancing that I've only heard since Crazy Town's Butterfly back in the early 2000s, and I don't understand.
Hobbs and Shaw,
like that.
Hobbs and Shaw, the Maori, the Hobbs and Shaw dance.
Yeah, but that's how it ends. Him circling in my son. Like, it was not even like a moment. It was like a good 2.5 minute sequence. Yep. And Noah turns to me. He's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "I have no idea." And then it went fades to black, and that was it. So it's just, you have some good, but then you have a lot of just crap. And at the end of the day, for me, guys, I'm just like, what is the purpose? Like, seriously, what is the purpose of this show aside from selling toys and skins on Fortnite for your Boba Fett skins? What is the purpose of this?
I think that's pretty much it. Sell toys.
Little nuggets, like Stu said, like additional races being revealed, like costumes being built for these guys and stuff like that. So maybe assets that they can use later. So maybe this is their way of farming all the labor and stuff, and creating all these assets. And then they were like, all right, go time when John or someone takes over.
They can still do that and write a good show.
No, obviously they can't.
No,
Andre,
I think the answer is clear.
Shows Andre they can't handle it.
We talked about this last episode. Again, as much as we think this is bad, Rob and I had another conversation. Like, DC can't even do this right. So, like, again, we've seen every, whether it's the dark universe, Universal, we're gonna do this dark universe, or every of these companies are trying to come up with their thing, and they failed everyone dramatically, time and time again.
They're doing Batgirl and Supergirl now, Andre, and they're gonna get rid of Batman and Superman. It's like, oh, fuck it, we can't do these. Let's try this. It's like, okay.
Like, again, I fear for titles like Fallout, Mass Effect, Halo. They're gonna be like this, and then we're gonna be like, oh man, like they wasted an opportunity, and we're just gonna sit there going, why did they even do this? Like, Halo already shown us nothing, and I'm so fearful of this show, and I'm like, I don't even want it. I don't want a Halo TV show because I know they're not going to do it right. How can they ever do it right? They can't. They're just gonna put a Master Chief up there, and I'm like, great. Do I really need this? The best Master Chief was when he showed up for 10 minutes on that Rise Unto Dawn or whatever TV like movie they had where he
Forward Onto Dawn, yeah.
Forward on Dawn, and he was only he was 10 minutes is all you need of Master Chief. Now I'm gonna get all of it, and I know, Andre, it's just a low bar, but like everything that's come out since A Wheel of Time, maybe that'll be good. Oof. Like everything that's
but
come
you know
out,
what though, the problem is you have these IPs and you're never going to attain
Mhm.
the level of fandom that these original IPs have created. However, if you provide a compelling story with that IP, that character, even though it's a mirror version or off different than what the original property was, people will enjoy it. I think, and I'm foreshadowing, and I could be wrong. I think we'll probably see it with The Last of Us, with HBO, with what they're doing. I think that they're going to take that and they'll adapt it and make it very good. I could be completely wrong, but I think that if you have an existing property, you can't mimic it to hit fan service. But if you give a compelling show, a compelling reason for the story to exist, people will watch it. And this is not compelling right now.
We just need to find out. We don't know the answer behind the scenes as to how many seasons this thing's going to get. And same with Last of Us. If they string this out for like 3 seasons, then we'll know the quality of the show, because they're just dragging it out for the sake of dragging it out because they just need content. Then that's the problem. That's the thing with half the products right now. It's like, well, it's not about season 1, Andre. It's about a 5-season arc. And how can you string along us for 5 seasons because you need a certain amount of episodes? You and I don't care about that. Put it in give me 1 season, do it right, and I'm happy. But that's not what content's about these days. It's about multiples and trying to drag it out as long as possible. And we can talk about this after too. Like even the AAA game developers, all of them are cutting corners, and no one's doing the right job. Like look at all these big, massive games, Andre, that come out half baked, and they're like, "Yeah, give us a few months and we'll fix it." It's like there was a time when you got a game and it was complete, like it was done, ready to go. You'd play. Now you get it 4 hours of downloading the patch before the game comes. You're like, wait, I have this disc. I have to go back on and download another.
The plug and play doesn't exist anymore.
They're like, like this is what my fear of this new Star Wars game too. It's like they give it, and it's just going to be glitches all around. I'm like, great. Another thing where I'd rather just play the old Knights of the Republic, which I know is done on an old system because it's a work of art and it's perfect. Why do I want this new crap?
Are you saying there's patches coming for these seasons later on? Is that why?
I wish.
New patch for season 1 Boba Fett. It's gonna make it 100 times
Boom,
better. Guys,
more
go back,
Ming-Na Wen.
rewatch it.
They're gonna de-shade his teeth so they're not so bright. You're like,
here's
Boba
the
Fett's
thing.
got the
So
best
before we jump to Andre, here's the thing about that episode with Ming-Na was the best Ming-Na I've ever seen, because when she was sitting there talking to that assassin and just throwing out shade, it was like, oh, this assassin, it's more by name, like she's just crushing them. It's like that was the fun where I'm just laughing and like Ming-Na just having a good time. It's like, oh yeah, what about the Rancor? Like that whole beginning where she's just making fun of these assassins, going, you guys are just a name, you're not a real Assassin's Guild. Throwing in the Rancor pit is like, you wouldn't say anything, until the Rancor pit, until opens it, nothing happens. Like that was a genuine fun part of the episode where I was like, oh, I was hoping it was. You guys don't watch the Bad Batch, but in the Bad Batch they got a new Rancor that Bit Fortuna took. I was expecting him to be there, but clearly it wasn't the thing. So Ming-Na was
brand new CG rendered Rancor. This is gonna be cool. And
I think his name is Mochi. I think his name is Mochi or Muchi.
Yeah, I think I saw that episode. Yeah.
So there was a new Rancor, but I guess they let him free and just not keep him in the cage. So nonetheless, okay. Anything else, John, that you want to comment about this episode before?
Well, John hasn't commented at all about it.
Oh yeah, sorry, John. Go ahead.
I'm jumping here and there, but yeah, I'll keep it short. I'll narrow it down to my 3 favorite things, 3 dumb things or silly things, whatever you want to call them. I actually cut my list from 3 of good things down to 2 good things, but I guess I'll try and stretch it out here. So the Tusken lore expansion. So like kind of like this expansion of the backstory, like it's kind of cool that they're giving these guys who are previously just in the back, like Rob said, they just get blasted and then that's it. So it's kind of cool that they're expanding this whole tribal element, and then they added the whole robes for Boba Fett and that kind of stuff. So the black pajamas actually kind of mean something. So it's kind of okay. I wish they could try and make it look better so it doesn't look like he's Winnie the Pooh walking around with no pants on or something like that. So
Like
if they can fix
right
that.
We don't
Well, I
know if
got
Andre's.
pants on.
We
I
don't
got
know.
matching
we
Wookiee
don't
pants.
know.
We don't know. We don't know.
He-Man.
Don't make
Oh, he's
promises.
gonna use your
You
fuzzy
can't
top.
do it. Yeah, don't. We don't know what you're wearing underneath, so don't make any promises unless you stand
don't
up.
ruin the surprise.
Number two, I'll quickly just mention Ming Na Wen. Like you guys have already kind of talked about her. She kind of is it's almost like Boba. So I actually kind of appreciate the show. If Boba Fett's so bad, all of it starts to lean towards her, and maybe it becomes her show. So maybe halfway through the season she takes over, which would be absolutely fantastic. And then so my last kind of thing I really liked about the episode is this gladiator Wookiee. So this is a character I think Andre can probably enlighten us later on, but Black Kursan 10 or something like that. He's an existing Star Wars character. He was in the Dr. Aphra comic series. He's kind of been around. Man, did he look badass? And I don't know what type of acting it takes to emote in a suit like that.
I think it was CGI, wasn't it? It's part of it.
Was it complete? I don't know. It looked really good. Like when he glared at them, it really looked like he's like, I'm gonna F you up. And then of course they cut to this whole past thing, so you don't get to see any of the ramifications. But he looked really good. So if they can make costumes look that good now in Star Wars, that's awesome. Like regardless if the show is bad or not or good or not, if they can make characters that look like that, I'm looking forward to seeing if they start getting the show right. And I look forward to seeing an Ewok gladiator. Andre, you can fill me in if that character exists. But
no,
I want a badass Ewok to walk in. So he was really cool. And even the reveal of the mayor, the technology behind the mayor, who's that weird I don't know what the hell it is.
Thorian?
Like
But
a hammerhead shark.
Yeah.
He was
actually looked.
He apparently was in the original Cantina scene, so that's the same character from the original Star Wars.
He actually looked pretty cool. So if we're gonna include costume design or creature rendering or whatever the hell it's called,
He was an existing creation.
Yeah.
They just made him look a little older. The thing they added was the voice box.
Well, and then they had the little. I don't remember, like the eyes, like were kind of conveyed. Like it actually looked like he was like really, like sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
In a CGI rendered alien, which I think is kind of an accomplishment that's cool. So shout outs to the FX team or whoever was behind that. So now let's get on to the silly stuff. Like I would say nothing looks funnier than shooting scenes on something that's supposed to be floating and it is clearly not. So all this speeder bike stuff, it's like, I don't know what, like I feel like you could maybe put it on like a jet ski like thing in water and then maybe it would actually look like it's floating. But I don't know, that looks hilarious. Maybe it could be topped by the fact of making it rain water in front of guys who clearly look like they're thirsty. Like like it just sprays those guys with water and they're like grabbing their cups and stuff like that. That was ridiculous. The next thing I'm gonna say, no matter how cool a forging of a weapon scene and how much history and cuts and stuff you make, that thing is still gonna look like a shower head on a stick to me. Like sure, I guess they developed a whole fighting system for it. It might actually be like a cane with a ball in it. I think that is an actual legit weapon that some people like pass off as a cane they throw in their trunk and it's actually a weapon of death. But no matter what you do, even if you show Boba Fett carving the little nubs on it, it looks like a shower head on a stick. And then my last real question is going to be, where'd those biker guys get their jackets? Like, do you think it's custom, or do you think it's off the rack?
It is custom, like Sons of Anarchy. I don't know if you realize.
Where these guys buy their cuts?
Don't worry, it'll be online in 2 weeks for you to purchase.
The jackets on the back, it actually says Tatooine, so it is essentially
it's gonna be for sale at Disney World.
Yeah, it's kind of basically like the Hell's Angels, each at the biker club that they have, and they've just used their crest. But that's
I just thought it was hilarious. These guys are wearing like matching biker gear, and Mando basically, I'm sorry, I mean Boba Fett comes in and does his.
To be fair, there's an
mirror
order
of episode 1 of Mandalorian.
There's an order of people that walk around wearing robes. So like really, you might as well just let it go, because if you guys see, like if you walk a Jedi walk in wearing like, really, you're wearing a robe? Like, all right, cool. Like no questions are asked. But it's a galaxy far, far away. It doesn't really matter. You can wear whatever you want. Clearly, we have like.
What's gonna happen when those guys wake up? Are they just gonna murder everybody in the bar?
I feel like those guys are dead. So
you think they're dead? They're gone.
I think that he killed them. So
okay, yeah. Anyways, the jackets were funny.
Dirty white jumper.
Yeah.
Overweight guy in a dirty white jumper.
I'll throw in one last jab, and I'm just gonna say, man, I wish Cobb Vanth really kept that armor, and we didn't have this show. But anyways,
There you go.
Like, I think Cobb Vanth could probably show up again. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm worried that this is gonna make Boba Fett not cool. So hopefully it'll.
I hope they make Boba Fett less cool. He was too hyped to begin with. Like it was just.
I don't. I
overhyped
I thought
him.
he was cool.
Like.
Well, his costume is stupid right now.
I get people overhyping Wolverine, the comic book character, because people overextend him all the time. But Boba Fett had no reason to be as popular because he just showed up in 3 minutes of a film in one movie, and then 5 minutes in the other one. It was like, oh, Boba Fett. I was like, you guys are
cool.
What? It's like at least Wolverine.
I don't want to have to sell. I don't want to have to sell my action figures. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to be like, you know what? I'm done with this guy.
There's a lot of Mandalorians available now, so you can just
repaint.
Honestly, John, I know Andre's already stepped on it, but the John Favreau Mandalorian armor one, where he has that cool like chain gun that's attached to the rocket pack, that's the one.
Yeah.
You can just hold that close to your heart as John Favreau but
you're gonna have to sell all your Boba Fett stuff, anyways.
Don't worry, they'll produce Boba Fett stuff to the end of time. He's just one of those characters.
Yeah, but if he's not, but if they make him less cool in this, you know what I mean?
Well, they have done that. So
they have done that 100%. They've already done it already.
Yeah, we've already lost a lot of the mystery, which I think it kind of sucks.
The Mandalorian raised his stock, and then this is just like what happened to that guy, right? So.
I think, and as
Telly Savalas is cosplaying.
Yeah, I think Andre, you said it very eloquently in the last pod. You're like, man, you really thought Pedro Pascal was just like, who is this guy? And now watching it, you're like, wow, it does take a lot of work to act in a helmet and to deliver lines. And Pedro Pascal actually isn't as bad as we all thought he was when you have someone as Boba Fett and Cobb Vanth wearing the Mandalorian helmets. So anyways, Andre, we'll give you the floor because I'm sure you have a lot to say.
All right. Well, I'll do like John. I'll keep it brief, but I'll give you some good with the bad. You're absolutely right, Stu. Putting going to the other material, like bringing Black Kristan or Kranistan or whatever, that was great. Bringing in the Pike Guild,
Pike Syndicate
from Clone Wars.
Yep.
That's great. So it shows that they're creating other stuff and they're bringing it in here.
Those are the guys on the train.
Yeah.
And they look really cool. I thought
those. Yeah. So when you see what they look like animated, you see what they look like here. You're like, wow, they did a great job. But to what I was trying to say, Stuart, was that those things had a plot point. Just putting, Tashi Station or whatever, and putting those two people in there, it's for nothing, right? Like it's just for Easter egg hunting.
Yeah.
But like John said, the costume looked great. The show looks amazing. I actually think that these two episodes, they look better than, rewatching your special edition of A New Hope, right? Like it looks fantastic. But that's also what makes it hurt so much, that they can't spend any time writing something that I give a damn about. We got 10 minutes of Fett in his current time, and he just gets disrespected the whole time. Like when he goes to that mayor's office, that guy, the first guy, should be dead. Straight up. That guy says, I'm sorry, he's busy.
Appointment.
Blam.
Yeah.
Shoot that dude. You're Boba Fett. You're the most feared man in the galaxy. Show these guys on Tatooine that you mean business. You disrespect me, that's just death. Right? Then that guy sends him on a fetch quest. He's like, here, take this token bag of coins and go talk to the owner of the bar. And he just takes it like, okay, I'm Boba Fett. I got
to be
nothing.
Fair, Andre, in the episode before set up where he said, I'm not going to rule by fear, I'm ruling by respect.
Correct, but that guy disrespected him. If people could disrespect you to your face, then what you need to bust out the gun, right? Like straight up, if there's no ramification and he's not going to enforce anything, then he's not going to last.
Isn't this also a
right?
Disney property where they don't want the good guys to be people that shoot people in the face.
Yeah, but
Are
this is
they
a
turning
guy
Boba
that's
Fett
got a,
into
he's got a
Boba Fett?
missile on his back.
Let me
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
yeah, go. Go ahead.
The
yeah.
Mandalorian in the first episode kills a dude because he knocks over his drink. That Mandalorian killed all those guys in that bar without licking a split, man.
Yeah.
He didn't
Yeah.
think twice, nothing. So don't tell me
No, but
that Boba Fett can't do the same thing.
but
And if they can't do that, then don't make the show.
but then this episode's brought to light with the traditions of the the tribes of Tatooine. Like he's now been rebirthed as a member of the Tusken Raiders. Thus, a whole bunch of new philosophies that he's been set in, a rebirth of sorts as to who he is, and he's going to be a different character. The Mandalorian starts off as, you're right, Andre, killing people, but by the end of the Mandalorian of season 2, when spoilers, he takes off the vow of his helmet, he follows Grogu, like he changes as a character. And like Boba Fett, everyone just knows him as one thing. He is developing as a character, and these 2 episodes have lined up saying you think Boba Fett, but actually we haven't seen that he's united the tribes of Tatooine, these people that that don't know him, and maybe that's honor and something else.
You haven't seen that he's unified the tribes of Tatooine.
Well, they said
that
they're
one tribe, bro. Like that's the thing. You're imparting more than what's there.
Well,
if there's a council of tribes and that's all, then that's cool. Then why isn't he bringing them?
Well, maybe that was all of them at the dance party. So like we don't know. There wasn't like name tags to say like each one's a different.
But again, so
like
you're
if that's
speculating, and if you're right, that's that's cool. I will say so. Like I did like those parts of the episode, and to be honest with you, that's why I give it 3 out of 10. Looked great. Brought in other things from the other fiction, and just man, it's Star Wars. Like seeing those Trandoshans and all the different things, really, really good. But again, on the plot and all that stuff, just terrible. I will say my 2 biggest gripes with it was the passage of time. Right? It literally felt like one night had passed. He went and he got the speeders. Then he came back, taught them how to ride the speeders.
Then one day,
then they hit the base, and it was all good. Like, how about a proper montage?
Yep.
Right. And then how did he learn to talk to them so fast? I'm like, I get what they're saying, but they could have done a proper montage of it, and that was just so stupid. And then last but certainly not least, my turn off moment where I wanted to leave the show was when that lizard thing went up his nose.
Oh.
Way to go, Favreau! Get the hell.
I forgot about that.
Get the hell. Like, I think what's going on here. Remember how people would say, nobody wants to tell George Lucas, what to do, and everybody's a yes man. I think maybe Favreau's got so much pull that nobody wants to say, yo, man, that's stupid, because they all want their job. That was the stupidest shit I'd ever seen. Right? They could have made it a beetle. They could have made it an insect. They could have made it a centipede.
They didn't even need it, Andre.
They didn't need it. That's true.
Said, hey,
and
have a vision, and we're gonna smoke you out of this tent or whatever.
Yeah, and then I will say again, they are really trying to make Boba Fett into a different character. That I will agree with you, Stu. But to give him a vision quest to find a piece of wood to make that bullshit weapon, I'm like, oh, he's a Jedi now, finding his Kyber crystal.
Yep.
Like again, honestly, not why I want to watch Boba Fett. If I can't watch Boba Fett being the most feared man in the galaxy, and like respected for that, and just literally people just be like, that's why people feared Mandalorian armor. They'd be like, shit, that could be Boba Fett. I don't know. I'm not messing with that guy. Let's go back to the spaceport.
Yep.
And I really think that just Favreau's, listen, if it's his favorite character or his like types of character, and he's elevating the Mandalorians, fine, but you're really like twisting and ignoring a lot of Star Wars stuff, not from the expanded universe, but from all the other stuff. Like John can attest, there was just a comic called The War of the Bounty Hunters. Boba Fett's a bad mofo, man. He takes on everybody. So you that's current Marvel comic books. There's current novels. So obviously Favreau and company aren't reading that, and they don't care about it, right? But I don't know. Anyways, I'm not watching the next episode, and I hope it gets good. I hope it gets better. I hope that people will still enjoy Boba Fett. And maybe if somebody says, yeah, it's worth watching, I'll come back. But this was one of the best looking worst episodes of television I've ever seen. And I was really sad because Stu, they gave us what we wanted, a 50-minute episode. It was like 45 or 47 minutes. So I'm like, damn, you gave us the time, but you didn't use the time in a manner that works. So I was just sad at that. Like,
yeah, your points are valid, Andre. I'm not going to I think for this show, it's going to require someone to take that leap to watch all of it. I respect that you're stopping at this point and maybe you'll come back to it. The fact that you said I'm open to see what happens at the end and maybe I'll come back is enough that, because the story is complete, and until the 7 chapters are completed, we'll know more at that standpoint. Maybe this is all a story that's split up into but just a weird narrative of how they want to tell it, instead of doing 5 episodes just of them and the tribe of Tatooine. They said no one cares about that. We have to split it kind of in the middle, because if we just did 4 episodes of Tatooine, as much as we'd be even more out. We'd be like, yeah, I don't care. Like, what
originally
this is Dances of Wolves
chronological.
Yeah, this is Dances of Wolves, and I'm like, yeah,
and then go to the future, and then they're like, no one's gonna watch it. We gotta blend and
shuffle these, and the Bapta Tank stuff. Like, it was cool. Like, to your point, when I saw, I think Black Croissant, like BK, as the kids on the street would call him, I was just,
God, I thought it was Burger King, but okay.
No, that actually isn't BK.
Whopper.
I loved it because the fact that when Boba Fett spoke to him, he's like, they know each other because they were both assigned by Darth Vader to do stuff. So when he was doing digs where he's like, yeah, I'm not here to pick up this gladiator. I don't care, this chump. Like, I don't care. Like, that's the machismo, Andre, that you're talking about. I don't care who this guy is. I will crush anyone in my way. But I think he also recognized the guy that was at the door is like this pleb who's stopping from the mayor. I don't care if it doesn't matter if I kill him or not. But this guy matters. I thought it was really cool, and I liked how BK had the scar on top of his eye. So those of you who don't know, that he fought Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Obi-Wan gave him that mark. So maybe he'll show up in the Obi-Wan show, because he at one point captures Owen as like an Obi-Wan shows up, just kicks his ass in, just like rocks him hard. So if this is a build up to more of the character building of this universe, then I'm super excited to see, what else happens. I was really impressed by the huts. They looked incredible, like really good. Like to your point, Andre, it was shot kind of like what we talked about. And you weren't on, but we talked before, Arcane. Like, everything is beautiful. Like, even though the thing is not story-wise, like, you can just pause scenes in this show, and it's Tatooine looks incredible. The brother and sister look incredible. Like, there's just parts of this you're like, wow, this looks really cool from a Star Wars property, and it's just so nice to see them spend money here. But the problem is, I think we all feel like it's still CW quality writing, but the money spent is amazing.
You know what the thing is?
Sorry, go Rob.
It makes me wonder, like, looking at this show, and then as I think about The Mandalorian, which had some hit and miss episodes, I'm thinking to myself, in retrospect, I feel like they did a better Boba Fett with The Mandalorian than they're doing with the Boba Fett character. Like,
they burned it off. They
right. Like, I kind of think, like, all those adventures, quote unquote, each episode that The Mandalorian went on, he was bounty hunting. Like, he was doing all this stuff. And I'm like, maybe those episodes weren't as bad as, like, not all of them were knocked out of the parks, but like, even the poorer ones were better than these. And I'm like, wow, they really like blew their wad on The Mandalorian and completely were like, oh, we have the best guy. What are we going to do with him? And so, yeah, it's just
that's a wicked point, because could you imagine for from a character growth standpoint, if they had the balls to make the Mandalorian show the Boba Fett show, and he goes on a bounty, and then he finds the young kid, he will remember when he's a kid.
Yeah.
And then if he finds out it's got force powers and he hates Jedis, but he's now honor bound to help this, that's a Boba Fett show. And we don't need him to take off his helmet, right? But I don't understand why we're trying to have 2 shows, and he wants, like, the Mandalorian, I'm now appreciating
one after another.
Yeah, like, this show is making me appreciate the Mandalorian. I'm like, that's a better Western. But Favreau's rolling into the tropes of a Western on Tatooine. Like, Rob, I know you like the train scene. Why is there a train on a desert planet when you have space freighters? Why couldn't you just fly it in a transport?
Andre, I think you realize that Pike Syndicate was basically shuffling the spice from Dune secretly across the planet.
Yeah.
So you couldn't.
Yeah,
you know,
I was like, what the hell? Did you have
well, to be
spice?
fair, George Lucas stole from Dune. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like John Carter of Mars. Everyone is like, it came out first.
Yeah.
So like, the fact that he was like, oh, by the way, are these the spice of the Kess? I'm like, oh boy, are they gonna show?
And they even said the word Dune as well.
Yeah,
I was like, wow.
And then when the
they're really on
sand
the
glistens, I was like, oh my god, did you just add the sparkles because you saw it in Denis Villeneuve's Dune?
Yeah.
I was sitting there laughing. I'm like, this is great. Like,
My brother-in-law came in and was like, "Are you watching Dune again?" I'm like, "No, this is Boba Fett. This is Book of Dune."
At the end of the day, like, I guess I agree with you. The train was kind of also a metaphor because that's what happened during the American Midwest, where train these colonization happened, and then they were on the time shooting buffaloes for no reason because they're just jackasses and like disrupting the native people in North America, and like all this stuff happens, and we saw it in that terrible movie with that shall be named starring Jonathan Majors, where there was a train that's just in the middle of nowhere, and then there's a train car robbery, and you're like, what is this movie about? Like, what's happening? But I did like the one thing that was kind of interesting was that the noise it made, it kind of emulated like of the dragon too, that Obi-Wan does too, the in the Mandalorian, where it's like it makes noise of trying to scare all the natives away from it, trying to steal the spice from one point to the other. But yeah, maybe that's the way they're smuggling stuff. Like, I don't know why they needed train, but like train was cool, man. Like it made sense.
Like, what
to me.
spice? What does it look like? Oh,
Yeah.
that's spice. That was funny.
Like,
You know what type of spice
Yeah,
it was?
that.
It was Old Spice.
Like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just a world, like, maybe that's the reason why, like, there's parts of The Witcher season 2 I really like when they're world building, and this is one of the world building episodes. I'm cool with that. I'm good when you build stuff out and you have this stuff where you're expanding in the universe. It's like, I never would have had a Tusken Raiders episode where you see that, and them talking about the way of their life, and people have technology, and we have so many tribes that are hidden. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's like, oh, wait a second, this is Dune. So again, I'm like, oh, all you people are hiding. I'm like, and you're waiting for someone to unite the clan. So I'm just waiting for Boba Fett by the end of this to become, basically
Different actor.
But
basically do the Dune thing where it's like the heart of the thing, where it's basically I'm waiting for Jason Momoa to come out and be like, let's take this planet, and then
Duncan Idaho, my man.
Him, Ming-Na, and Jason Momoa just kicking butt and taking names. Like, I'm like, oh wait, they're just doing their own copy of Dune.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what I expect.
But that takes away from it, because again, we've never in a way had that in Star Wars, right? With the Sand People. The Sand People, like, again, I don't know all of their history and stuff like that, but to have it like, been like this, and he's like, oh yeah, you are now protected by the Tusken tribes. How did Boba Fett know he was warriors? He literally met these 6 dudes. And he's like, you're warriors, you don't need to hide. I'm like, okay, that's great. Fett's so worldly, he's a genius, he can pick up grunt language, right? Like, they don't show any of that, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, I agree with you, Andre. You know what they could have done? They could have got the same budget. Stephen Amell had that really ghetto beard in Arrow. If they just would have glued a beard onto Timo and be like, oh, he's been on the planet for like, he's been there for like a couple months, that he has a scraggly, ugly beard. I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And when he puts on the clothing,
a mask over his face.
And then with the clothing, they shaved him, and it's like, now you're wearing the robes, like you're gonna wear the official Tusken black, and then we're gonna shave your face, and you'll look like a badass again. Like, I just even like, because we've seen
are they doing something to his skin, Stu? Like, are they like, is that like a clone injury or something? His face looks like,
I don't know, because
scarred.
I think because of the sun or whatever. But even then, I'm like, you can't grow a beard. I'm like, It's kind of in my mind. I was like, this isn't. It's like you can you can.
Boba Fett
Just,
don't rock no beard. Get out of here.
is it only for clone troopers can wear beards? Like Cody has a beard. Like is it only? It's like Boba Fett. Like
We have an issue though, and we've said this before on for reviewing of numerous different shows, is that we live in an age of 1,000+ channels. And every week there's new shows and movies that are being produced and coming out and this and that. We might be in a bit of a dip because of COVID, but for the most part, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out there, and these TV shows have to elevate to be able to grab our attention and want us to continue watching it. Now, obviously, there's some shows are going to appeal to more certain people more than others, and that's fine. That's the nature of television. However, for the mass general audience, you need to step up and elevate yourself, and if you can't, then you start to lose. Like Andre's out because of he just doesn't enjoy the show. But there's a lot of people, I'm assuming, that are going to be out for relatively the same reason, not because they don't really care for the lore of it, but just that it's not grasping them enough. They're like, hey, Ozark season 4 is dropping next week. Peace, Boba Fett. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? I
feel like we're the exception to the rule. I feel like the ratings for Boba Fett have been really good. I feel like we're the only ones that are like complaining, and everyone else who's just
there's definitely
person are like,
reviews
cool.
that people aren't digging it. I feel like the reviews of people not digging it are greater than the reviews of people like who are like, oh, this is amazing.
But again, amazing is maybe not what they're trying to do. Like maybe they're just trying to make a good show.
But just
good
people... enough is not like that's not an expectation that you would want your even your own kids, or as an employer, you don't want your employees. Like, I want you to do a fantastic job. Can I just do a good enough job? Yeah, sure, that's fine. We'll take good enough.
Well, maybe they're carving. I hate to always like. I don't mean this like as a diss to CW, but maybe they're trying to carve out a market. Like CW does all superhero shows, and a lot of us don't even watch them. We read this. Nope. We read the comics or something else, right?
Yep.
So maybe this Star Wars thing is they're kind of lane.
Yeah, could be
that avenue.
At the end of the day,
not like,
it's we've talked about this 100 times. Shareholders, it's all about shareholders for Disney, and it's about making content fast and getting it through the system so people will subscribe to Disney Plus. About sub numbers,
sausages.
It's not about quality before. Like again, even for games, like gone are the days where a game comes out that's good and ready to go. Now it's like just push it out. Battlefield, new Battlefield, just push it out. Is it done? No. Are there cheating ever? Yep. Just get it out. Like how many of these Call of Duty, all these games are basically run based on pre-orders, and then their games are just garbage. Like I can count so many of these games are just pushed out. So it's similar to some of the content now where, it's just let's just jam out movies and stuff, and then we're gonna see what happens.
Ideas.
I don't think they've got to be trying. I don't think I don't think they're going for mediocrity.
No, I don't think so either.
Let's just get content out because again, the show doesn't need to look that good, right? They could have made the show look half as good and it would still look amazing. And they could double the number of episodes if they really wanted to get it out. But again, like Rob said, I have to want to watch this, and I don't know who the audience is for this. A 10-year-old can't watch it because if they haven't watched all the Star Wars, they're not going to get it. Did it have a cool action scene in the train thing? Cool. But everything else would have been boring for a kid, right? And again, as much as I want 45-minute episodes, no kid is watching that. So is it an 18-year-old they're going for? Is it a 10-year-old? Is it a 30-year-old? Who's it ultimately for, right? And honestly, like I know I'm crotchety and I'm very hard on it, but I'm like, I don't know if this is the quality that Disney Plus is going for. Why do I have Disney Plus? Why don't I just get it for the month and watch what I want to watch? Because
binge it, cancel it.
Well, that's why they continue to make new stuff. That's every,
but that's why they don't like most of the stuff. Honestly, most of the stuff that I would want to watch or have on their stars, I own.
Yeah.
Everything else, like if it's a movie, I own. There's some, sure. Would I watch, whatever new animated Pixar thing or whatever? Yeah, but I don't necessarily need to. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it's really for kind of like the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff and whatever. And so far, they're not batting. They're coming up to bat. Maybe they're getting a single. Maybe they're getting a double. But why do I keep that? Like at a certain point, they got to say, hey, we need people to take a look at what we're doing, and we're going to redefine what makes good television. Like, I'm still waiting for them to have a show on Disney Plus that is better than Game of Thrones, visually, storytelling wise. They have properties, they have the talented pool of directors and creative people, but HBO's made one of the best television series out there. I didn't love all of Game of Thrones, you guys know that.
Agreed.
But that show looks like no other show has looked like since.
But
Disney has more money than
but
almost anybody, with all the Marvel licenses, with the Disney license, with Star Wars. Like, they could make something where we go, God damn, who's going to be able to top this? And I think you mentioned it, Rob, when we talked about the Matrix. Reinvent TV, Disney, just once. Like, redo something so we're like, holy crap. Like, I thought Game of Thrones was the pinnacle. Jesus, who can top this? And Disney should be like, yep, that's why you keep Disney Plus, because every now and then you're going to get a grand slam. Bases are loaded. We are knocking it out of the park, and nobody can even come up to test us, like, and I think that's possible.
But Andre, it's about the level of competition. And for those of you who are young and old enough to remember the East, like WCW, WWE battle of the ages, where you had two top tier products pushing each other to the elevation and move to limits, it forces you to be better. And Disney hasn't had anyone to really push them in that direction for subscribers. Like, they have one of the largest subscriber bases. They have the Marvel Cinematic Universe just dominates everyone. There's nothing close to it. We talked about it. Nothing. Kevin Feige is the greatest producer in movie history. Like, he hasn't made the best movies. We can agree he doesn't make the best movie, but he's the most influential and the most prolific in terms of knowing what people want and making money. And there's no one who does it better than him. And he's making billions of dollars for this company. And they're like, do you want me to do anything else other than this? They're like, no, just do. They made Spider-Man a $1.4 billion movie during a pandemic. Like, it's insane. So I agree with you. Game of Thrones was based on content of books. And even we've seen it with A Wheel of Time. Even when you have a book, people don't do it right. And people are messing it up. And then with Game of Thrones, that's a whole, I think it was really an author issue that you couldn't finish the story because the author didn't finish his books. But there are that scene in Battle of Bastards and things that like are incredible television moments that will never be surpassed. But again, that's seems like to be a one-off, because I can't imagine the new show being anywhere close to this one, because George R.R. Martin spent like decades writing these books.
Yeah,
so
but
we'll see what happens.
I don't even think it's not necessarily from the writing. It is
a lot of it the writing, because what happens when you let people write their own stuff at the end? The end was terrible. So we're gonna see what happens with Lord of the Rings, because that's the next big thing where it's based on a property where there's books, there's a Silmarillion, there's things like, and if they can't nail this with Amazon money, then just wrap it up. Like, then Disney just doesn't matter. Give them the crown, because if you have this much unlimited money / books and content available to you, where it's an easy home run, it's like underhand, and you can't get it right, then forget it. There's nothing.
Well, I think we're shortchanging the fact that HBO has a proven track record for 40 years of making great content. And I think we also have to acknowledge Netflix and their ability to pull in and distribute decent shows and good shows as well. They do distribute a lot of shit.
It's up and down, yeah.
But they do, when they hit hard. And so far, Disney Plus and even Amazon to an extent hasn't hit hard. They've gotten close, but they haven't hit hard. They haven't earned it yet, right? Amazon's expanding their original content, right? I know in February, John and I are stoked for the Jack Reacher stuff. And as we, you said before, we know that they did well with the Jack Ryan stuff. They got that coming back out. So, and Invincible season 1 was not bad, right? So let's see what they do. Let's see what Disney Plus does, but they have to elevate their game. To be honest with you, for content being produced and distributed, I think HBO is the top when it comes to quality content. And then I think you got to go Netflix and then Disney Plus and Amazon.
Everything comes down to this Obi-Wan TV show. Like, I think that is the one where it's either going to make or break, because when you get back Ewan McGregor, this show, there's just hype and buzz. I'm like, this is one of the signature pieces, more so than Boba Fett, more so than The Mandalorian, it's more so than anything else. As Ahsoka Tano is great, but it ain't Obi-Wan Kenobi. So when Obi-Wan comes out, and if they can't get this right, Andre, you and I will just be shaking our heads over, and like, you had this opportunity to spend years and years to come up with a story. You have Ewan McGregor who'll look, act, and be amazing, but if they can't get the story right, we're just gonna scratch our heads going, man, like, what a wasted opportunity. What have you done with this? So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, because that should be the one. Like, that should be the elevation of the chosen one. Yeah,
You were the
chosen one.
I'm just waiting for Sam Whitaker to yell. It's like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, like, just like, just yelling, like, like, hope we'll see. Like, I don't know.
Does anyone remember when they started filming Book of Fett? Do you think maybe they called an audible with the the controversy of the galaxy thing that they were going to maybe make with Gina Carano and those guys, and they were like,
no, they were filming this. They were started filming this towards the
during
end
Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was their plan. I was like, maybe they tried to shoehorn this in and try to like
no.
Try
They
to
kind of had something
out to kind of cover.
But I think, like, again, I think Jon Favreau wanted to do this, and Filoni is like, Dave is like, I got another stuff to do. I got this Ahsoka Tano. I got Obi-Wan.
He's like, you sure? We
like,
just did Mandalorian, and we used all
your
your good Boba Fett ideas on it.
He's like, I'm busy with other Star Wars stuff, so you do you, and I'll see you later. And
He's probably like, I'm tired of covering for your ass. I'm out.
Yeah, like, he's like, cool, man. Cool. You guys do that stuff and give me the stuff I care about, and we'll see.
Because
like,
Filoni's not on this at all, right? He's not credited.
No,
for any
I
of these
think
episodes.
he's credited as an executive producer, but
sure.
like, really,
that means
which is
nothing.
just-
He's on the
just-
Ahsoka Tano set right now, right? So
yeah, he's dealing. He's probably was.
Yeah, because maybe you had him at least like stitching some stuff together for Mandalorian and go, hey, no, you gotta tie this together. This has got to connect, right?
Oh, for sure. Dave
yeah.
is the gospel, the book of like all Star Wars. So really, right now they'll call Dave and be like, "Can we do this?" He's like, "Well, actually, you like." So he's probably advising.
Yeah. But maybe for this show, he's just like, "I'm too busy."
No, even this, he's advising. He's just like, man, like, you do you. Like, you give me the opportunity to like run all these other shows, so I'll let you nosedive.
Maybe he doesn't like Boba Fett, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't care. Do whatever you want with this character. He's not coming back in my shit."
No, he did some great stuff with Boba Fett in the Clone Wars when
young
Boba Fett, right?
He's like, I did my good stuff.
Yeah. Like, again, he's too busy with Ahsoka, and again, I'm cool with that. Like, he's a writer, he's the executive producer. So really, Andre, if you can't hit Ahsoka, then we have to look back and be like, Dave, we have some questions. Like, we need to talk to you.
Yeah, maybe they have to get to Jedi's before the Star Wars stuff can actually be like legit.
I'm good with them taking a break from the Jedi's, because I feel
like they've been taking it forever.
They need forever to wash away the garbage that was the last, like, all that crap that happened. I need a full sabbatical, just like clear that off. I don't want any Jedi's.
You know what I think they really need? I think they needed a new story.
Yep.
Meaning, like, we already know what a Mandalorian is. We already know what Boba Fett is. No matter how good Obi-Wan is, it's treading kind of the same ground. Cassian Andor, we already know what to expect. They really needed to come out with something new out of the gate and have the themes and the essence of Star Wars, but really take us to somewhere new. So every week you're like, I got to tune in to see where this goes.
Yeah.
As much as, I think people are excited for Ahsoka, and I am, in a way, I am too. I would have rather that been in a cartoon. And even though Rebels was in a time period we knew, he did manage to take us to a lot of different places. And I don't think we've seen any of that. They're relying on the power of nostalgia. We're back on Tatooine. Oh, here's Tashi Station. Oh, we're going to talk about a Rancor. You're not going to see it. Here's some huts, so here's some sand people, but they look cooler. every Star Wars movie, when they were coming out, there was always something new. There was a new locale, new planet, new spaceships, new characters,
But
right?
They were supposed to do that though, Andre, and that Benioff and Weiss were hired to create a whole new non-Skywalker, trilogy, a whole new idea with a whole different part of the universe.
And it fell apart.
No, that was but there's been other creators who were hired to create a whole new idea within the Star Wars universe, and they've been shown the door. So this is maybe a Kathleen Kennedy who's like, you know what? Obviously, we can't crack these new ideas. Let's go back to what we have and mine our own IP.
I agree that maybe it's something, but the thing is, there's so much content that they're not pulling from, and there's so many existing ideas. Like Stu's talked about, we're going to take a name from here. We're going to mention Revan Corps, and now we can use a little bit of Revan. We're going to mention this in a movie, and now that canonizes it, and we can use it and we can explore it. They got to be a little bit, hesitant and proceed with caution, but they also can't be handcuffed and so afraid of what the future will be, because they're going to run out of side stories to fill in at this rate. You know what I mean? Remember that joke a couple years ago, the Aunt Beru story?
Right.
They're gonna run out, and that's what we're gonna get.
I feel like
even point, Bad Batch. It's like, okay, Clone Wars is really great. These guys are kind of cool, but I'm like, we've seen a lot of this, guys. Like
maybe. Can I get the Luke Skywalker Smallville show?
Yeah. I feel like
with Uncle Owen and everybody.
I feel like this is to your point, Andre. I think the best way for them to expand is, but also touch point to what we know, is the Dr. Opera show. Like, have her introduce us to new worlds. You have Darth Vader's there. Everyone loves Darth Vader. So have her kind of just go around, introduce new worlds, have the archaeology.
Fuck them up.
you already have BK, like he's there, like just do this setup where she can go around the galaxy far away and like go to different planets and look for stuff Indiana Jones style. And that would be the way to kind of slowly say that it's more than just Coruscant. It's more than Kashyyyk. It's more than just Tatooine and Yavin 4 and Hoth, because those are the main places people can actually name planets from Star Wars. Other than that, like, no one really knows anything. Like, Rob's just falling asleep right now as I name planetary alignments of that, and he was like, "Oh God, what's gonna happen now? You're gonna talk about the guild, or you're gonna talk about the Trade Federation?" I was like, I don't even know where these planets are.
I'm just thinking
I
more
think
about
Jedi Academy is a super hot spec book right now in the comic world.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
But I think right now they're waiting to kind of. The Jedis are kind of a weird thing right now. I think they're going to wait a little bit longer before they do it. I
don't know. I think they got to get to it. I think they got to get in
for movies. Maybe that's the way they do it. Movies, Jedis would be awesome.
I don't know.
In TV shows,
because that's one of the biggest appeals for me.
Yeah. Like, I feel like every Jedis are such a special thing. Like, maybe just in movies that you see Jedis, and everywhere else is like a snippet here and there to leave the mystery. Like you said, Andre, the mystery of the Jedi Order. I don't need to see them every week. If I do, it's like, is that really the same? Like, it matters, especially if the quality of craftsmanship is not the same for lightsabers. Like, if it's not going to be there when I want, then don't bother doing it. Like, just stop it. So I think we've talked about before, like the music of the Skywalker trilogy and the Jedi it pulls the strings, but it should be used not for just nostalgia, not for just to get people. It should be used for purpose, right? So I'll be interested to see, I guess, when they make this new, like even Kathleen Kennedy's, like, who was it, the new Rogue One movie? Like, now that's quietly like under the rug again. Like, we don't even know when that's gonna happen again. We're like, oh yeah, we're gonna make this Rogue One film. I'm like, are we now? I'm like,
you know what I think?
See,
you know what I think they need? I think they need to have, for the actual movie making people in the TV, like the Kathleen Kennedys and the Jon Favreaus and Filonis, I think they almost need like to bring back like the Lucas licensing division, because look at what these video game guys have to do to make the game. They've got to pass all their ideas up the chain of command, and I don't think, and again, I if it's not Jon Favreau's fault, I'm going to apologize, but maybe it's just like it just stops there and he doesn't care. But you look at like Jedi Fallen
job.
Order, and they had to put in so much stuff, and they had to make it tight, and they had to get authorization done on every design spec. And then you look at, like, we don't know what the game's about, but we've got a remake of Old Republic, and they said they're going to change some stuff. And then we've got that Quantum Dream game. Those guys can't just do whatever they want. So maybe they just need to be like, yeah, Favreau, you can't do whatever you want. We still got to pass this through some type of, I don't want to say council, but like, or
you mean,
think tank,
you
know,
mean,
but
Andre, they're Kevin Feige. You need the Kevin Feige to basically do it, because that's what
yeah,
he does for Marvel.
or you need, you know what? Guess what's missing from Star Wars? George Lucas. You need your Lucas-esque figure, because no matter how much you dislike the prequels, they were tight with his vision.
Oh no,
right?
no one's
There's
disputing
no
that.
more
Yeah.
vision in Star Wars right now, so everything's wishy-washy. And again, just because I get to see the creatures or a speeder bike or a pod race or a spaceship or a location doesn't mean it's got anything to do with Star Wars other than the aesthetic. And I personally believe that like a Filoni would fit that job of just like, hey, Jon Favreau, fire your ideas through me. I will edit them and make them Star Wars enough that people can not only watch it as lay people, but Star Wars fans will enjoy it, and we can merchandise the shit out of it. To bring it back to Boba Fett. John, how cool would it have been if Boba Fett had 3 costumes in this one episode? That's 3 action figures we could sell. But he was in that diaper suit for the whole 2 episodes. Like, they
I'm glad he got out of those pajamas. I'm like,
I know, like,
some.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, they could have given him a half wrap, a Tuscan helmet, and then he gets those robes. We would have been like, yo, there's the 3 new Star Wars Black Series. But for the whole episode, he walks around in that thing. And how long was he in it, right? Like, so I think they're
making
lack
that
of
figure
vision.
though. And that's technically his underwear. He wore it under his armor, right?
Yeah.
So it was basically his long johns.
It was an underoos, yeah.
Yeah.
It's underoos.
Like, they couldn't give him something.
At the end of the day, you know, Disney and all
He
of
should have stole one of those jackets.
all of
He should have
entertainment.
took their gear.
Yeah, I need your bike. Your
He should have been
clothes.
like Terminator 2, throws on the shades and takes off.
That
I
would have
think
been the best figure ever.
it's a variant. Like at the end of the day, the entertainment industry is crippled by the nature of Kevin Feige, because everyone wants to do what he's done, and they're going to continually try to emulate it till the end of time because he makes money. So we're going to be stuck. This is unfortunately where we're at right now, where every property is going to be like this to the end of time. They're going to try to copy. That's why they brought Kathleen Kennedy to Star Wars. She's like, oh, she oversaw Lucas Arts. She was involved in Indiana Jones and all these properties for George Lucas. She can help run
and
a
she
division.
was a very great producer as well. She has a huge CV of producing amazing movies.
And to her
right?
point,
So-
maybe she was a little too hands off to her. Like she can do a lot of the up talking, but when it came to ideas, she's like, yeah, JJ, you will do whatever you want. And that was mistake number 1, hiring the wrong person. But like, again, you know, again, we can talk about JJ Abrams another day, but you know, but that's what happens, right? And she let the wheel kind of go a little bit farther than she wanted to. But she, again, as much as I was calling to get rid of her, she brought in Dave and she brought in Jon Favreau, who not exactly hitting home runs, but has revived a franchise that was pretty much like people were like, I'm out. Like all the people in Star Wars. I know, Andre, you're not completely happy, but there were more people that didn't even want anything to do with Star Wars, period. At least with the Mandalorian, they're like, oh, the helmet's cool. And like, they're starting to get back into the property that, frankly, I called it dead. I was like, I'm never gonna watch anything Star Wars again. I was done. And like the fact that they're bringing me back slowly and they're going to get me to watch whatever the new trilogy is, or like it's something, because they had to resurrect basically just a product that was dead on arrival after that movie, because there's so many of us who felt upset with what happened to Luke. And even Mark Hamill is like, not being a complete ass, was like, I would disagree with what they did with my character. And there's been, you know, and even last year when he came back, we didn't all love it, but to give him that proper swan song to like do it correctly the way he thought and he was touched with everything. Like for him to genuinely think everyone was like, this was perfect for me. This is all I ever wanted. From him, from Luke, mattered a lot to a lot of people. Because again, he was like, I'm an actor, I'm paid to do my job. I'm like, that's not what I want to hear from an actor about an experience on a movie. So again, we will see what happens if this is a crescendo upwards. Again, we have 3 or 4 more Star Wars TV shows.
Sounds daunting.
We talked about before the Hall of Fame. All you need is 400, Andre, to be a Hall of Famer. You don't need to hit 100. 400 is all you need to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame. You hit 400, you're in. So Disney's pretty much hitting 350. Like that's it. They're not even homers, just singles and bloops. Stand down like it's on base. There hasn't been something that's been so unwatchable yet. They're okay. So there'll be a day when we'll get to a show where all of us are like, I can't even watch 3 minutes of it, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're gonna wrap things up because this has gone off to different tangents enough. But I'm excited to clearly see more Star Wars in the future. I think all of us are too. We will see if Andre will jump back on the bandwagon near the end. Maybe he'll jump back in for episode 7. Who knows? Maybe not.
Just watch the finale, maybe.
Yeah, maybe just watch the finale. Maybe that's it. We'll see. Maybe
Back in the white jumper. What the hell?
What I want is Andre
if
show up.
they're doing flashbacks to that last episode.
Honestly, the next time Andre shows, he's gonna show up. He's gonna have that Tatooine jumper jacket on, and he's gonna look. I'm part of the gang. I'm back.
That'll be the
baby.
next Columbia drop.
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy, Sons of Tatooine. I'm back. I'm here. It's call me Jace. All right, John. Where can we find you in the internet and Andre in the Desert of the Real?
Yeah, so hit us up online, Heroes World Online. That's going to take you to our Facebook, Instagram, website, and the YouTube channels where we post all kinds of this fantastic content and post all the new releases from the shop. You heard Andre mention it before, Star Wars comics. There's a lot of really good stuff to choose from. So definitely hit us up in shop and through messages. We can hook you up with all of that. If you're listening to this on the Audio Heroes World podcast on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, you can now give us a rating out of 5 stars. So slide that up to 5, please, and help us out. And Andre's got where we are in the real world to get some Star Wars comics and whatever else you need.
Yeah, so we are conveniently located in Markham, Ontario, 8601 Warden Avenue. That's Warden and Highway 7, and it's just north of Steeles if you're coming from the GTA. We have got lots of stuff, not only Star Wars comics, but a huge selection of Star Wars action figures. John's been sourcing all the latest and greatest Black series from, we talked Boba Fett, we talked Mandalorian, there's Bad Batch figures, as well as Star Wars board games and card games and stuff, but not only Star Wars stuff too, Magic the Gathering comics. We have got almost anything to entertain you during this time. We know we've got kind of another COVID lockdown situation where we're at almost. So if you're at home and you're looking for something to take your mind off it, or if you've got young kids that are just running around and got too much energy, give us a call or come on by. We've got comics, we've got games, we've got activities that we could recommend to, maybe entice your kids and teach them something or get them into something really cool, a new hobby or something.
Awesome. Rob, what's going on the Sidekick Show this week?
Oh boy, we are in for a treat. This is something that John has been clamoring for the last 2 years. So on the Heroes World Sidekick Show, Mondays at 8 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, we are going to be essentially breaking down the rules and picking the first parts of our movies for the 90s action movie bracket. We did this
the Jean-Claude Van Damme-a-thon.
Stop it right now. We started this about a year ago. We did the 80s action movie bracket, and it was a lot of fun. So John has been, first of all, this is like our pre-show of before the bracket hits in 2 weeks, because there's a lot of action movies from the 80s, from the 90s. So John and I are going to break it down. We're going to figure out which years we're going to be doing for the first run, and so definitely join us as we talk about which movies will make the first part of the bracket. That's the Heroes World Sidekick Show, Monday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if I'm wrong, Andre's right. whether John should put his hat in not backwards on a sideways capacity.
And whether I should
Not
do
an
a circle
angle.
dance around a fire.
Yeah.
If you want to see a Smallville Luke Skywalker show.
Yeah. I think, Rob, you have to put that lizard up your nose to gain the opportunity to find that tree in the desert. You don't find the Joshua tree by just walking in the forest.
Maybe there's a language lizard. Maybe he got the language lizard.
It was the one from Star Trek. It was the beetle that went into Chekhov's ear.
When you're on a desert, you got to find that tree, and
Yeah.
it requires a lizard to help you. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's great. You just got to find it. Find your lizard. Find that tree.
We should have a neurologist on to explain how it works.
Hey man, it worked in the other was the Babelfish and where you stick the worm in your brain and then it translates everything to you. At Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
At least it was a worm. This was like the thing went up and came back, that came out like it knew. Oh man, it's
It
so
was
bad.
smaller. It shrunk. It shrunk.
Hey man, maybe it was some sort of stardust. Maybe it was the sand. Maybe it was the spice. Who knows? He went on a journey of discovery.
He was so wrecked up. He wasn't even like hallucinating. He was like,
he
He
was
even called it
birthed
out when he came
in a
back. He
tree.
was like, I thought that was part of the vision. I didn't think I actually stuck a lizard in my nose like Total Recall.
Yeah.
And tried to track down a tree.
Yo, man,
Did the tree
just-
exist or was that a hallucination? Where did you get the stick?
the tree is real. It was interesting before we go. Like,
What if
it
the
was-
stick is just a hardened piece of bantha shit?
Yeah, it was weird because like in the art at the end, they showed like the Jawas were there too, and I'm like, wait, so the Jawas are hiding in the trees, like all the lights, like they have this
Those eyes,
weird.
that's what the
So
eyes.
so the big trees are the Tusken Raiders, little trees are the Jawas, and they've been like, I guess the last remnants of the sea people that lived on this planet. So I'm just trying to figure out what the whole thing was, but I'm in. I want to learn more. I will open up to get the lizard up my nose if that's available to me as well on the desert planet of Tatooine. I would like to know more. So hey,
Crazy, Stu, crazy.
keep an open mind,
Plugged
man.
with head.
Keep
That
an
would
open
have been
mind.
funny.
And we discussed, Andre, I'm never going to be a Jedi. It's not going to happen. So Mandalorian is fine. Tusken Raider is an option for me. Maybe I could join the Hutts. I'm not going to be part of that loser assassins guild as well.
The Night Reapers.
I'm gonna be a
Yeah.
lizard snorting fool. All right,
Hey, maybe and one thing, last thing I mentioned too, but we didn't mention the Crimson Dawn because when Fennec was like, you can't kill the Fets, you might have to ask for approval. Like you need to ask people. I'm like, oh, does that mean like they have to go to the Crimson Dawn, like the next larger criminal syndicate to like ask permission? So
I'd rather they go visit PM Dawn.
PS
Set
Chang's
adrift
gonna
on
be-
memory.
We'll
bliss
see.
on you.
Unfortunately, Darth Maul's not running the Crimson Dawn, so maybe it will be a certain Queen of Westeros showing up on a
Mhm.
cameo performance. So we'll see what happens. For those of you who don't know. Anyways, please comment, let us know, subscribe, like, stars, all that jamma. So thank you so much. We will see you next week. Bye, everyone, and hopefully,
Peace out.
hopefully you will find your own personal nose lizard. Thank you. Bye.